All right, so I'm recording this meeting. We are going over REST APIs with the LNO Dev team. Go ahead, Yasmin. It's all yours.
Okay, I will explain the part doing by a Postman. And the first thing that you have to do is go to the REST API page, and then you have to create an account. I have an account right now, so there you can create a project here, and after that you will have a secret key and application ID and other key. I think that are tricky. So the the first key that you will need is this, the application ID. This application ID, you must add it in the REST API integration in your Blackboard. So here you have to create an integration, and in the integration it only needs 3 fields: the application ID, this one, and the users that you want to have some kind of restrictions, which user you want to have access. We didn't use this. Is I'm not sure how to use the learn user, but I think that are the user that will have access to the integration, like assistant admin.
Right. So you
Um,
could potentially create a custom system admin
yes,
account there, and you can give that user. Okay. Right.
yes, I think so, but I'm not sure. That part we didn't use.
Okay.
So this is the only thing that you have to that you really need. The application ID. So you submit it when you create it. I also have one here. So now my Blackboard is connected to application that have access that you will have access by the endpoints. So the next step is go to Postman. Here I have, and you will search for, I don't know, one of these endpoints. I think that I'm using right now one for contents. This get. It's a get, learn application, course, contents. Yes, this one. So how Postman knows to which application it have to go by the URL. So right now, here will go the URL, the, the URL of Blackboard, and then the other path of the request. So here, learn API, publish, and the parameters. But you will need an authorization, and Blackboard use auth 2.0. So you select this, and after that you will have to get a new access token. Here you add a name and the access token URL. This access token URL is um, the first endpoint here, this one, this token. Um, you add it here, and the client ID and the client secret. These two are the other two numbers that it gives, that the 3 hashes, because here when you create a project you will have three
Parameters.
parameters. Yes,
Mhm.
thanks. The application ID for Blackboard, and the other two that are the ones that you will use, the client ID and the client secret. The other parameters you don't have to select it. Only the a basic authentication header, and you add request token. So after this, you will have a token. So you use the token and you choose here. And then you can add a request. So I use the one of contents. Well, finding here contents. I think that I'm using right now this one. So if you want to make a get, it gives you the parameter. So you have the course ID, and this is a parameter that you can send in a lot of ways. Like a primary, you only have to add the primary key by an external ID. So you have to add the external ID, 2 points, math, and the name, or like a course ID, or even a UUID. Here I'm doing by the third way, by course ID. So I add the parameter course ID, then the course ID. If I made this, I will change this. I will receive the content. Sorry, will receive the content about that course. So here I have the information. Let me see. Here it is. So I have all the contents of this course. If you want to make another post, another request, and you want authorization, Postman save the data that you will need. You only generate a new token, or you choose the token that you previously create.
Yes, this is great.
Yes.
The requirement is if you can
Sorry,
open.
I didn't hear you. Well,
Hi. Can you hear me now?
yes, yes.
Yeah. So the requirement is if you can open Bishop's meeting invite.
Sorry. Can you
Sorry,
write
sir.
it?
Yes.
Yes, it's because it.
Yeah. So I can, Akshay, I can
It's better.
understand. So what if I
Uh,
open my meeting invite, we have two
and
links there, right?
yeah, so they are. I want them to go through the three fields which we are looking for. One is current course performance, completion of orientation activity, and residency attendance.
Okay. I'm not sure about all the endpoints that the REST API has, but you can search all the endpoints uh, in the page of Learn APIs. You say that you need about registration of users or users, right?
Yeah, I need current course performance. Let me put in the chart.
Yes, please.
So I mean, I think Akshay wants to know
Your
if
course
you have
perform.
already used if you already used REST API for getting this information out, and if you already know. I mean, if not, then you can show us the basics, and then we'll have to there'll be exploration there.
So how to get
Um,
the data for which API to call for getting this data?
So that is great information, right?
yes. I'm not sure about all the endpoints that it has. We only have used about contents and some assessments, but not all the endpoints. I know that you can find information about attendance in courses in a specific course. I know that you have the information about the course grades of from a user. I don't know if this could help. Even the grading and groups, memberships.
So Akshay, looking at your request in the email, right, or in the meeting invite, we are looking at some basic scenarios where we want grade-related information, for example,
Yeah,
and so on. But I think what we can do is that will be and uh, Shane, please let me know if this sounds reasonable. In this particular demo from Yasmin and Bernardo, let us see the two methods of invocation that they are using. The way they so one method is postman like Yasmin showed us.
sure.
Another method is I think Yasmin you will go over it shortly after we finish this discussion. So you can show us those two methods of invocation from an external application to get information out of Blackboard using REST APIs. And
Yeah.
then I think, Akshay, we will have to go through that list of REST APIs and see how it will work for the information that you requested.
Sure.
Does that sound reasonable, Shane?
Yeah, I think we can use some spike hours to examine the APIs, and try and match up with what he needs there. But yeah, we need the access methods sort of spelled out.
Okay.
Okay. Right now, I'm looking for a project that where we use our Node.js, and we made some requests to the REST API. So let me search for it. Okay. Okay, here it is. So if you want to use the REST API from Blackboard in Node project, you have to use this library, the npm install, the bbREST. So the way that you have to use it, I will close this, is the first thing that you have to do. Here it is. When you make the npm install of bbREST, you have to create, are you watching my screen? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So you have to make a request of the bbREST. So when you made it, you will have a constructor for make a new REST application, where you have to give it the origin. So this is the URL, the key, and the secret. We made it in a separate file in an emp. Here we have the origin, that is the URL, the BBK. That these two parameters are the two other parameters that you have to save when you make the project. So these parameters, you use it in a file with authentication. So you will export the bbREST, the object that you create with this instruction. So you will have the bbREST. Now you can export it, and you can use a bbREST request. I think that I have to an example. So here I request the bb authentication. That is the one that I export in the authentication, this bbREST, this object. So when I want to make a request, I only have to call this variable with the type of request, and then you send the URL that will be, in this case, this part, because you already sent the base URL. So then you have to add a learn API and all the other things that the URL require, and it will respond in a callback. So here is when you get a complete, and in the complete you will have the an error if it has a response and a result. The content of the request will be in the result, so you have to cache this result, and you can make some function like this, where if it's an error, an error, you make what you want, and a response, you get the information that you need of this URL. I don't know if it's clear. I forgot to mention that this bbREST library of npm is a little bit old. So the best way that you can use it is making a function when you return a promise, because this way you will have an asynchronous or asynchronous response, making the response in this way, making a reject, and if it's an error, or making a response everything is fine.
So I don't know, Yasmin, if you can go over one scenario where you are using um, uh, this in, let's say, a debug mode or something like that, where we can see um, um, REST, basically REST API going, or this function going out and making call and then returning results to you.
Let me see. Let me see if I can. I think that this project is. No. Let me search. Or I don't know if you Bernardo have a project and you can help me. I'm right now searching.
I have a little example, a little easier than the Jasmine did, but I think it can be useful for you.
Okay.
I'm going to share it.
Okay, thanks, Bernardo.
Okay. Okay, are you watching my
Yes,
screen?
yes, yeah.
Yeah. And as Jasmine mentioned before, you have to install the model of VBREST with this command. And when you install this module, you can require it here. And you need the parameters that you, for example, your Blackboard, the URL of your Blackboard, and the key and secret that the connection generated before when you registered in the Blackboard community, I think, and you passed these variables as parameters. If you watch here, I'm creating a new object of REST API, REST app, and I pass in the parameters. And as Jasmine mentioned, you don't need the first path of the URL in the Blackboard REST API. Okay, Jasmine, can you send me the link of
Yes.
the Blackboard REST API, please? Okay, wait. Okay, okay. And if you can see, if, for example, this example is for get the users of Blackboard, of my Blackboard, and I don't need, for example, I'm going to search user here, user.
I think that is below the last one.
Okay, groups of users, course users. Okay, you don't need this part of the path. This, this part is included in this object already, and you don't need this part. You only need the second part that you want. For in this example is only users, only this part.
Interesting. Okay.
And you put here users, and then here you have a callback, and you can get you have 3 parameters here, I think. And when this function is complete, you can get the response in this object. I can send you this little example if you want.
Yeah, that would be good. If
Hmm
you do that.
And here I print the error if there is an error, or the response, and the status code, and the body that this could be the user, I think, in body. I'm not sure about, but I can send you this example. You can install the model of VivoRes and you can execute it. See if you are using Node.js.
Okay, so do you have such an example, Bernardo? And this is great, and thanks for
Mhm.
sending this information over. Do you have such a example for, let's say, grade of a user, or
About the grades,
right, grades
um,
for the user?
I don't have that example for grades, but I think you can get it in the same way. Only you need add the grades here. Wait, course grades, users, grades. Mm,
There is. You pass it. You need a grade of a specific student or the grade of a course.
of a course.
I mean, you
Yes, because
want grade of a specific student enrolled in a specific course, but yeah, I guess
mm,
um
Because I see one where you add the course ID
uh-huh,
and you will receive a grade, but for a specific user.
right, grade will be always tied to a user, right?
Maybe I can.
I mean, that's fine if you don't if you have not played around with it. It's something that will have to be explored um, by the development team here.
I think I will share something. See in the
okay,
chat.
okay,
Oh, in the chat.
okay. Oh, yes, we didn't use that kind of
So if you
method.
search about course grades in the Blackboard in this page where Bernardo is looking for, you will find all the ways that you can find grades. And it includes grade for a course, grades. Obviously, you only always have to specify the course. Grade by
Mhm.
columns, grade by attempts, grade by user, by schemas. Um,
Yes, you have
you have a lot
call
of options where you can find. I will send the URL of the recipe. I don't know if you if
course.
Yeah,
you
I
got it.
think we
Yes, the
already
course
had that.
ID, grade with
Yeah,
columns, column
Yeah, we have
ID.
that.
But the key is find course grades. So in the part of course grades, you will
Yeah,
find that the part that you will need, and you
right.
can
Yeah.
test it by Postman,
yeah,
and then you can
I mean,
make.
I guess the development teams here will have to use trial and error for some of these options and see what works for them.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think for the basic idea of invocation, we did get some useful information.
yes. I
Um,
think this endpoint will be useful for you. I think.
yeah, it's got course
Mm,
ID and user ID both, and the
mhm.
column you want to pull grade from. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty good.
Hmm.
Right. So no, that this is great.
Yeah,
Thanks
it's very
for
helpful.
yeah, thanks for your time. I think I'll open it up to Akshay also, Akshay and Shane. Akshay, do you think this information of invocation with parameters is something that we could use?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think this is great. Uh, the only thing is like when can we expect the API details, Bishop, Shane, like which API we should calling to get those three fields data?
So Shane, I think I guess I'll defer to you.
Yeah, I think now that we've got a method, I can try out various APIs and see what they're returning and try and hook it up with what Akshay needs. But yeah, it's going to require a few days of investigation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we are in third sprint and it is committed for this PI. So just
Right. So
to let you guys know the urgency.
what
Yeah.
what we'll do is, Akshay, like I mentioned before, this is new to us also. So there
Yeah.
was going to be always a spike that we agreed to, right?
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we will, like Shane mentioned, he'll have to play around with it, and
Sure.
he's got other projects also in his plate. So he'll have to see how much capacity he can spend on this. But um, based on that information, this
Yeah.
information that we gleaned today in the demo, let's see what works for you for the requirements that you've sent, those three points that you sent, Akshay,
Yeah.
and hopefully we'll be able to give you something soon.
Yeah. So I'm just setting up the right
No, no,
expectations
no,
so we
that's right.
can inform to Emma that it's
Correct.
possible or not possible in this PI.
Right. So I
Or
don't know if I honestly don't know if we can hit all the marks in this PI because there is discovery involved
yeah.
here in the form of a spike. But we'll try to uh, um, get you what we can based on what we learned today. And we are also learning this pretty late in the PI, right? So we'll have to work with
Because
that work.
just keep in mind, like after you give the API details,
Hmm.
we also need to do some development,
Oh,
all,
absolutely.
all those APIs.
Right. Right.
And so we have every, I can say, third and fourth sprint, fifth is
Correct. Correct.
the IP sprint.
Right. And
So,
Akshay, the invocation part for your end, and I don't know what option you will choose to invoke. There are a lot of ways to invoke REST APIs. Two options are these are the two options we discussed here, but maybe there might be more.
so,
Whatever path you choose, it would involve some development effort from your end also, correct? In the portal
yes.
wherever you are choosing to.
Yeah, so most likely we'll be using Informatica
Okay.
for this REST API,
Mhm.
and we have Azure API that will be invoking that will be invoked by Salesforce.
Right. Great. So I think I'll stop the recording. Are there any more questions, Akshay or Shane, or even Bernardo and Yasmin, if you have?
And also, if you have other questions, you can send us an email, or maybe if you will need another session, we
Mhm.
can help you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the time that you've already given here. And from this point onwards, I think in our team also we have Phil Jacobs who did play around with REST APIs maybe some years ago. So we have some information there, but we also wanted to see how you were invoking outside of the method we already knew. So this was the second method of invocation, especially was interesting to see of how development team is invoking these parameters and REST APIs. So no, thank you very much. I'll be stopping the recording here.